A massive chamber buzzed with angry voices. Ambassador Vextar stood at the center of the Galactic Council, his forearms waving as he spoke. His red skin gleamed under the bright lights of Nexus Prime, the great ring world that served as the galaxy's meeting place. "The humans are spreading too fast," Vextar said, his voice echoing through the huge room. "They have taken 12 star systems in just 50 years. Their ships appear in our space without permission. They ignore our warnings and boundaries." Around him, hundreds of alien representatives nodded and made sounds of agreement. The hegemony coalition controlled over 3,000 worlds. They had the strongest military in the galaxy. To them, humans were nothing more than troublesome insects. Vextar turned to face the crystal pods that floated near the ceiling. Inside each pod, an ancient being rested in blue liquid. These were the Kefmori Elders, the oldest living creatures in the galaxy. They had watched stars die and new ones be born. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. Honored. "Elders," Vextar said, bowing his head slightly, "we ask for your wisdom. Should we act against these humans before they become a real threat?" The chamber fell silent. Even the smallest whisper seemed too loud. Everyone knew the elders rarely spoke. When they did, entire worlds listened. The largest crystal pod began to glow. A voice filled the air, ancient and tired. It was Elder Shender, the oldest of them all. His words came slowly, as if each one weighed 1,000 years. "Young species?" The elder said. "You ask us about humans. We have seen much in our long existence. We have watched proud empires burn to ash. We have seen mighty fleets become space dust. In all our time, across all the cycles of stars, we have learned one truth above all others." The elder paused. The silence stretched until it became painful. "Never oppose humanity directly. They are not what they appear to be." Vextar felt his anger rise. His warrior blood demanded action, not fear. "With respect, honored elder, the humans have only 12 small ships. Our latest intelligence shows their technology is decades behind ours. They use simple nuclear fusion for power while we have quantum cores. Their weapons are basic plasma, while we have reality disruptors." Other voices joined in. General Crix of the Manted Swarms clicked his mandibles. "The humans are weak. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no strength. They breathe common air and die easily." Commander Yella of the Silicon Collective added her mechanical voice. "Our analysis confirms human inferiority. Their ships are slow. Their computers are primitive. Their military tactics are predictable." Elder Shender's pod glowed brighter. When he spoke again, there was something in his voice that made the bravest. Warriors stepped back. "Fools," the elder said. "You see only what they show you. You count only what they let you count. In all our eons, we have never spoken this warning lightly. When we say never oppose humanity, we speak from experience that cost us dearly." "What experience?" Vextar demanded. "There are no records of humans fighting the elders. They only achieved faster-than-light travel 20 years ago." The elders. Pod dimmed. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to record. Some truths are too terrible to speak plainly. We can only warn you. Do not make this mistake." But Vextar had heard enough. He turned to face the council. "Fellow members of the Hegemony Coalition, we have listened to fear and superstition long enough. While we debate, the humans grow stronger. They establish new colonies. They build new ships. How long before they decide we are the threat?" Cheers erupted from the council floor. Vextar felt the power of their support. He was young and strong. His people controlled 1/3 of the galaxy. Why should they fear a species that had barely left their home system? "I call for a vote, Vextar. announced, all in favor of immediate military action against the human expansion. Thousands of voices rose in approval. Lights flashed across the chamber as each species cast their vote. When the counting finished, the result was clear. The Hegemony Coalition would go to war. Above them, the crystal pods of the elders dimmed. One by one, Elder Shender spoke one last time, his voice filled with ancient sadness. Then you have chosen your path. We cannot stop you. We can only hope that when the darkness comes, some trace of wisdom will survive to warn the next civilization. The elders' pods went dark. The chamber erupted in celebration. Vextar smiled as his generals surrounded him, already planning their attack. 3,000 ships against 12. It would be the shortest war in galactic history. Far away, in a quiet corner of space, Captain Lisa Park sat in the command chair of the human research vessel Aurora. Her communications officer turned to face her, his face pale. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Coalition. It's a declaration of war. Lisa felt her stomach drop. She had feared this day would come. The humans had tried so hard to stay peaceful, to avoid conflict. But some species only understood strength. Send a priority message to Admiral Kane Mitchell aboard the Liberty, she ordered. Tell him the Elder's warning wasn't enough. The Coalition has made their choice. As the message raced through space toward the human fleet, Lisa stared out at the stars. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, about the quiet life she had planned after this mission. All of that seemed very far away now. The Hegemony Coalition had 3,000 ships, advanced weapons, and the support of most of the galaxy. But they had made one critical mistake. They had ignored the Elder's warning about humanity. Soon, they would learn why that warning existed. 3 weeks passed like a storm cloud gathering strength. The Hegemony War fleet moved through space like a metal tide, 3,000 ships of every size and design. Some were massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets. Others were swift attack craft built for speed and stealth. All of them carried enough firepower to turn entire star systems into dust. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. His fleet stretched across light years of space, a sight that had brought fear to countless enemies. Soon, the humans would see this display and surrender. It would be quick and easy. Sir, we're approaching the edge of human space, reported his navigation officer. Sensors are picking up their outer colonies. Vextar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. What do you see? Scattered defense platforms? Civilian ships trying to escape? The officer frowned at his display. That's the strange thing, sir. We're not detecting any panic. No evacuation ships. No distress signals. It's almost like they're waiting for us. Waiting? Vextar laughed. With what? They have 12 ships against our 3,000. Maybe they plan to surrender immediately. But as the fleet moved deeper into human territory, something felt wrong. The space around them was too quiet, too calm. Where were the desperate defense fleets? Where were the frantic calls for help? Then the sensors lit up with contacts. Dead. Ahead, near the mining station orbiting Kepler 442b, 12 human ships waited in perfect formation. They looked tiny compared to the Hegemony Armada, like insects facing a hurricane. Vextar opened a communication channel, expecting to receive a surrender. Instead, a calm human face appeared on his screen. The man had gray hair and steady blue eyes. His uniform was simple and clean. I am Admiral Kane Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. You must be Ambassador Vextar. I have a message for you. Vextar was surprised by the human's composure. Yes, I am Vextar. Have you come to surrender? It would save many lives. Admiral Mitchell shook his head slowly. No, Vextar. I came to tell you something important. You are warned. The elders tried to protect you. They gave you the wisdom of ages, and you threw it away. We gave you every chance to turn back. Protect me? Vexstar as anger flared. Human, look around you. I have 3,000 ships. You have 12. My weapons can destroy stars. Your entire species could not scratch my hull. I see you've made your choice, Mitchell said sadly. I'm sorry it had to be this way. Really, I am. The transmission ended. Vexstar stared at the blank screen in disbelief. The human had spoken like he held all the cards in this game, like he was the one with 3,000 ships. Sir, should we begin the attack? Asked his weapons officer. Yes, Vexstar snarled. Target their flagship first. Show them what real power looks like. The first wave of hegemony ships opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked through space toward the tiny human fleet. It should have been over in seconds. But something impossible happened. The human ships moved like they were dancing, each one flowing around the incoming fire with perfect precision. Not a single shot connected. It was as if they knew exactly where each weapon would strike before it was even fired. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons were simple plasma cannons, nothing special by galactic standards. But they hit with surgical precision. Each shot found weak spots in hegemony armor, striking power conduits and weapon systems with accuracy that defied probability. How are they doing that? Vexstar demanded. Our targeting computers should give us perfect accuracy. His tactical officer looked confused. Sir, our computers are giving us targeting solutions, but they're wrong. Every calculation shows we should be hitting them, but our shots are missing by kilometers. More human ships appeared from behind the mining station. These weren't military vessels. They were converted civilian craft, cargo haulers, and mining ships fitted with basic weapons. Commander Jake Sullivan led this motley fleet of defenders, ships that should have been no threat to anyone. But as these civilian ships joined the battle, the impossible became terrifying. The hegemony fleet began shooting at each other. Report! Vexstar shouted as explosions lit up the space around him. Sir, our AI systems are malfunctioning. They're identifying our own ships as enemy targets. Our friend or foe systems are completely corrupted. Dr. Amy Chun sat in the science section of the human flagship Liberty, watching her displays with grim satisfaction. Around her, screens showed streams of quantum data flowing through subspace networks. To anyone else, it would look like random noise. To her, it was a symphony of controlled chaos. How long until full cascade implementation? Admiral Mitchell asked over the comm. 15 minutes, sir, Amy replied. The quantum viruses are propagating through their network faster than expected. Their systems are more interconnected than we thought. On the main battle display, hegemony ships continued to turn their weapons on each other. What had started as a coordinated assault was becoming a circular firing squad. Ships that had fought together for decades were now locked in desperate combat, unable to distinguish friend from foe. Commander Sullivan's voice crackled over the radio from his converted mining ship prospector. This is incredible. The big guys are tearing each other apart. It's like they can't see us anymore. That wasn't quite true. The hegemony could see the humans perfectly well. What they couldn't do was process that information correctly. Every sensor reading was corrupted. Every targeting solution was wrong. Every tactical decision was based on false data. Amy watched as the quantum cascade spread beyond the immediate battle zone. The viruses weren't just affecting the fleet. They were traveling through the hegemony's subspace communication network, reaching back toward their home systems. Admiral, she said quietly, we're detecting system failures across 17 hegemony worlds. Their quantum networks are collapsing. Mitchell nodded grimly. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. For 50 years, humanity had been quietly embedding quantum code into every piece of technology they shared, every diplomatic data packet they sent, every scientific collaboration they participated in. It was supposed to be a defensive measure, a last resort. Now that last resort was becoming reality. Vexstar watched his mighty fleet destroy itself and felt true fear for the first time in his life. This wasn't warfare as he understood it. This was something else entirely, something that turned his own strength against him. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, immediate withdrawal." But his ships couldn't retreat. Their navigation systems were as corrupted as everything else. Some ships jumped to random coordinates. Others began flying in circles. A few simply shut down completely, drifting dead in space. Admiral Mitchell opened the communication channel one final time. His face appeared on every functioning screen in the hegemony fleet. "We didn't want this war, Vexstar," he said softly. "We tried to warn you through the elders. We tried to stay hidden, to give you time to understand, but you wouldn't listen." The transmission ended, leaving Vexstar alone with the wreckage of his pride and the terrible knowledge that he had made. The worst mistake in galactic history. A battle had become a nightmare. Vexstar watched in horror as his own ships continued to destroy each other. The hegemony fleet that had once been his pride was now a chaotic mess of explosions and desperate screams over the radio. "Sir, we're getting reports from across the fleet," his communications officer said, his voice shaking. "Every ship is affected. Our computers think we're the enemy. The targeting systems are completely corrupted." Vexstar slammed his fist on the command console. "How is this possible? Our quantum cores are protected by the best security in the galaxy. Our AI systems were built by the Silicon Collective themselves." Captain Steve Rodriguez flew his small fighter through the chaos, watching massive hegemony battleships turn their weapons on their own allies. He had been a pilot for 10 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Ships that should have been coordinating their attacks were instead locked in deadly combat with each other. "This is Rodriguez to all human squadrons," he said into his radio. "Stay clear of the big ships. Let them handle themselves. Our job is to protect the mining station." But as Steve watched, he realized the human fighters barely needed to fire their weapons. The hegemony fleet was destroying itself more efficiently than any attack could have managed. Massive dreadnoughts were firing their planet-cracking cannons at their own escort ships. Fast attack craft were launching missiles at their command vessels. "Rodriguez, this is command," came Admiral Mitchell's voice. "How does it look out there?" "Like a madhouse, sir," Steve replied, dodging debris from a destroyed hegemony cruiser. "They can't tell friend from foe anymore. It's like watching someone fight their own shadow." On the human flagship Liberty, Dr. Amy Chun monitored the spreading chaos from her science station. Her screens showed data flows racing through the galaxy's subspace networks. What had started as a defensive virus was now spreading like wildfire through every connected system in hegemony space. "Admiral, the cascade is accelerating," she reported. "We're detecting system failures on 43 hegemony worlds now. Their quantum networks are collapsing faster than we predicted." Admiral Mitchell felt a heavy weight in his chest. He had hoped the demonstration would be enough to end the war quickly. He had not wanted this level of destruction. "Can we limit the spread?" Amy shook her head. "No, sir. Once it reached their main communication hubs, it became self-sustaining. Every quantum computer in their empire is either corrupted or shutting down to protect itself." Lieutenant Commander Kate Williams worked at the communication station aboard the research vessel Aurora. She had been monitoring hegemony transmissions since the battle began. What she was hearing made her stomach turn. "Captain Park," she called to her commander, "you need to hear this. I'm picking up emergency broadcasts from hegemony home systems. Captain. Lisa Park listened as the alien voices filled the bridge. Even through the translation systems, the panic was clear. Reports were coming in from across the Hegemony Coalition. Power grids were failing. Transportation networks had stopped working. Even basic life support systems on space stations were beginning to malfunction. My God, Lisa whispered. It's not just their military. It's everything. Kate nodded grimly. Any technology that connects to their quantum network is affected. Their entire civilization runs on interconnected systems. They built everything to work together, and now that's being used against them. Back on the Hegemony flagship, Vextar was receiving similar reports. His tactical display showed red warning lights spreading across the galaxy like a plague. World after world was going dark as their technology failed. Sir, we're getting a transmission from Hegemony Prime, his communications officer said. High Command wants to speak with you immediately. The image that appeared on Vextar's screen showed General Malther, the supreme military commander of the Hegemony Coalition. Behind him, emergency lights flashed, and officers ran back and forth in panic. Vextar, what have you done? Malther demanded. Our entire network is collapsing. Ships are crashing into space stations. Defense platforms are firing on civilian vessels. The humans are inside everything. Inside everything? Vextar felt his blood turn cold. What do you mean? Every quantum computer, every AI system, every piece of advanced technology we have is corrupted, Malther explained. It's like the humans have been living in our systems for decades. How is that possible? For the first time, Vextar began to understand the true scope of what was happening. This wasn't just a battle tactic. This was something that had been planned for years, maybe decades. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet. They had destroyed his entire civilization without firing more than a few shots. Steve Rodriguez watched as another Hegemony dreadnought exploded, torn apart by its own escort ships. The space around the mining station was filled with debris and the lifeless hulks of alien vessels. In less than 2 hours, the mighty Hegemony fleet had been reduced to scrap metal. All human ships, this is Admiral Mitchell, came the voice over the radio. Cease fire and maintain defensive positions. The battle is over. Steve looked around at the destruction and felt a chill. If this was what humans could do when they were angry, what else were they capable of? On the Liberty, Admiral Mitchell prepared to send his final message to what remained of the Hegemony fleet. Dr. Chun had confirmed that the quantum cascade was now unstoppable. Within days, every advanced system in Hegemony space would be either corrupted or shut down. Mitchell opened a wideband transmission that would reach every surviving ship and station in the area. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but filled with sadness. This is Admiral Kane Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. I am speaking to all survivors of the Hegemony Coalition fleet. Your war is over. Your weapons are silent. Your ships can no longer fight. He paused, looking out at the wreckage floating in space around them. You want to know how this happened. You want to understand how 12 ships defeated 3,000. The answer is simple, but terrible. For the past 50 years, since humanity first achieved interstellar communication, we have been quietly preparing for this day. Mitchell's image appeared on every working screen in the area, including the bridge of Vextar's crippled flagship. Every piece of technology we traded with you contained hidden code. Every diplomatic data packet we sent carried quantum viruses. Every scientific collaboration, every cultural exchange, every act of friendship was also an act of preparation for war. Not because we wanted war, but because we knew someday someone would force it upon us. Vextar listened in growing horror as the human admiral continued. We didn't want this, Vextar. We tried to warn you through the elders. We tried to stay hidden, to give you time to understand that humanity was different. But you wouldn't listen. You saw only what you wanted to see. The transmission ended, leaving the survivors of the hegemony fleet floating in the darkness, their mighty empire reduced to technological ruins by an enemy they had thought was weak and primitive. In the silence that followed, Vexstar finally understood why the ancient elders had given their warning. Some truths were too terrible to speak plainly, but the lesson was now written in the wreckage around them. Never oppose humanity. Never. 2 weeks after the battle, the ancient Kethmori ship appeared without warning. It was like nothing anyone had ever seen before, made of crystal and metal that seemed to bend light around itself. The ship was older than most stars, and it carried the most ancient being in the galaxy. Admiral King Mitchell stood in the meeting room of Haven's Rest, a neutral space station that served diplomats and traders. With him were Dr. Amy Chun and Captain Lisa Park. They waited nervously for their visitor. None of them had ever met one of the elders face to face. Commander Jake Sullivan was there too. He had survived the battle, but most of his converted civilian ships had been destroyed by the chaos in the hegemony fleet. He still looked shaken by what he had witnessed. The door opened with a soft hiss, and Elder Shender entered. He was not what they expected. Instead of the frail ancient being they imagined, he appeared almost human-like, but taller and thinner. His skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly. His eyes were completely black, like looking into deep space. "Admiral Mitchell," the elder said, his voice carrying the weight of countless years. "Dr. Chun, Captain Park, Commander Sullivan, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. What we must discuss cannot wait any longer." Admiral Mitchell nodded respectfully. "Elder Shender, we're honored by your presence. I have to ask, though, why didn't the other council members listen to your warning? Why did they ignore such ancient wisdom?" The elder moved slowly to the large window that looked out at the stars. "Because the truth is too terrible for most minds to accept. Because what I am about to tell you will change everything you think you know about your species." Dr. Chun felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" Elder Shender turned to face them. "Humanity is not a young species. You are not newcomers to the galaxy. You are the return of something far older and more dangerous than any of us." The humans looked at each other in confusion. Captain Park spoke first. "That's impossible. We have records of our entire evolution on Earth. We know where we came from. Do you?" The elder asked sadly. "Tell me, Dr. Chun, when you created the quantum viruses that destroyed the hegemony, how did you know exactly how their technology worked? How did you understand the deepest levels of their quantum systems?" Amy frowned. "We've been studying galactic technology for decades. We learned from trading partners and scientific exchanges." "No," Shender said firmly. "You understood it because you created it. All of it. Every quantum computer in this galaxy, every faster-than-light drive, every AI system, every piece of advanced technology that every species uses was built on foundations laid by your ancestors." Commander Sullivan stepped forward. "Our ancestors? What are you talking about?" The elder began to pace slowly around the room. "Millions of years ago, long before any current species achieved intelligence, the galaxy was ruled by beings called the Architects. They were the first human civilization, and they were nothing like you are now. The Architects built the quantum substrate that underlies all modern technology. They created the subspace networks that connect star systems. They designed the fundamental codes that every computer in the galaxy still uses today. They were masters of reality itself." Admiral Mitchell felt his world shifting. What happened to them? "They transcended," Shender explained. "They moved beyond physical existence and became one with the quantum realm itself. But they didn't disappear completely. They left behind sleeping fragments of their consciousness, embedded in the quantum foam that fills all space. Dr. Chun suddenly understood something that had always puzzled her. That's why the quantum codes felt so familiar. That's why I could see patterns that shouldn't have been visible. Yes, the elder confirmed. Every human carries a fragment of the architects within them. Most of the time, it sleeps. But when threatened, when your species faces extinction, that ancient knowledge awakens. Captain Park felt sick. Are you saying the battle against the hegemony was just instinct? That we didn't really control what happened? You controlled it, Shender assured her. But you used knowledge that was already inside you, waiting to be discovered. The quantum viruses you created were based on architecture that your species designed eons ago. The elder moved to a table in the center of the room and activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy, but not as they knew it. This map was marked with ancient routes and forgotten territories. Earth is not your birth world, he continued. It is your prison. The words hit the humans like a physical blow. Sullivan almost fell into a chair. Prison? When the architects transcended, they left behind physical descendants. Humans who had not yet evolved beyond matter and energy. My ancestors, the early Keth Mori, found these remaining humans in a state of quantum stasis, existing in multiple realities at once. Shender pointed to a distant part of the galactic map. We were terrified. Even in their sleeping state, these humans were dangerous. Their dreams could alter reality. Their unconscious thoughts could rewrite the laws of physics in small areas around them. So you moved us, Admiral Mitchell said quietly. We relocated your entire species to an isolated star system, far from the galactic core. We built barriers in space-time itself to contain you. We watched and waited, hoping you would evolve into something less dangerous. Dr. Chun looked at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. But we didn't, did we? No, the elder said sadly. You grew more dangerous, not physically, but mentally. Every generation of humans became more capable of accessing the architect. Knowledge. Every technological advancement brought you closer to awakening. The room fell silent. Finally, Captain Park asked the question they were all thinking. What you saw in the battle, that wasn't us fully awakened, was it? Elder Shender shook his head. No. What happened to the hegemony fleet was merely an immune response. Your species reacted to a threat without even fully understanding what you were doing. The true human civilization, the consciousness of the architects, still sleeps in the quantum realm. And if it wakes up? Commander Sullivan asked the elders. Black eyes seemed to look through them into some terrible future. If the architects fully awaken, if they choose to reclaim their place in this reality, then every species in the galaxy will face a choice. Submit to beings who can rewrite the universe with a thought, or face extinction. Admiral Mitchell felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. Why are you telling us this? Because the awakening has already begun, Shender replied. Your victory over the hegemony was not an end, but a beginning. Other species will challenge you now, driven by fear or ambition. Each conflict will force you to reach deeper into the architect knowledge. Each battle will bring you closer to full awakening. The elder moved toward the door, then paused. The rule we gave the galaxy was simple. Never oppose humanity. Not because we feared your ships or your weapons, but because we feared what you might become if pushed too far. What should we do? Dr. Chun asked desperately. Elder Shender looked back at them one final time. Learn to control what you are, before it controls you. The galaxy's fate now rests in your hands, whether you want that responsibility or not. The door closed behind him, leaving the four humans alone with the terrible knowledge of what they truly were. Outside the window, the stars seemed different now, less like distant lights and more like a vast garden waiting for its creators to return. 6 months had passed since the hegemony war ended and the galaxy would never be the same. The once mighty hegemony worlds had fallen into darkness, their quantum networks permanently corrupted. Billions of beings struggled to survive without the advanced technology they had depended on for centuries. Admiral Steve Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the research station Harmony, watching alien scientists work alongside human engineers. He had been promoted after the war, but the rank felt heavy on his shoulders. Everything felt heavy now that he knew what humanity really was. The station was one of 12 joint facilities where different species were learning to work together. But Rodriguez knew the truth. It wasn't really cooperation. It was humanity teaching the galaxy how to live in a universe where the architects had returned. "Admiral, we have a transmission from the Galactic Council," his aide reported. "They're ready for the final vote." Rodriguez nodded and walked to the communication center. On the screen, he could see the great chamber of Nexus Prime, but it looked very different now. Most of the seats were empty. Many species had withdrawn from galactic politics entirely, too afraid to risk opposing humanity again. Elder Shender floated in his crystal pod at the center of the chamber. Around him, the remaining species representatives waited quietly. The age of loud debates and angry arguments was over. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Shender said, his ancient voice carrying across space to every listening world. "Today we acknowledge what has become clear to all. The age of the Council is ending. The age of the architects has begun again." The formal words made it sound peaceful, but Rodriguez knew better. This wasn't a choice the galaxy was making freely. It was surrender, dressed up as diplomacy. "I hereby transfer all authority and responsibility for galactic governance to Admiral Kane Mitchell and the representatives of humanity," Shender continued. "May they prove wiser than we were." Back on Earth, Admiral Mitchell accepted the burden. In a simple ceremony, no crowds cheered, no flags waved. He simply nodded and signed the documents that made humanity the guardians of the galaxy. Dr. Kate Williams, now serving as humanity's chief diplomatic scientist, stood beside him. She had spent months explaining to terrified alien delegates that humans didn't want to conquer the galaxy. They already owned it, written into the quantum code of reality itself. "The choice is simple," she had told them repeatedly. "Work with us willingly, or face the consequences of opposition. We've seen what happens to those who choose conflict." The delegates always nodded and agreed. What else could they do? The wreckage of the hegemony fleet served as a permanent reminder of humanity's true power. Williams looked out at the alien ambassadors gathered in the Earth's new diplomatic center. They tried to hide their fear, but she could see it in their eyes. They were sitting across from beings who could rewrite the universe with a thought, and everyone knew it. "We don't want to rule you," she said during the daily briefings. "We want to help you understand your place in the garden we planted long ago." But even as she spoke the words, Williams felt the weight of the lie. Humanity might not want to rule, but they would rule anyway. The architect knowledge was growing stronger in all of them. Each day, more humans began to see the quantum patterns that controlled reality. Each day, their power grew. Captain Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the Aurora as her ship prepared for humanity's first deep space exploration mission beyond the galaxy's rim. Her crew was excited about the journey, but Lisa felt only sadness. "Captain, we're ready to begin the jump to dark space," her navigation officer reported. Lisa nodded. "Take us out, Lieutenant. Let's see what's waiting for us beyond the garden." As the Aurora leaped into the void between galaxies, Lisa thought about what they might find out there. More gardens planted by the architects? Other species that had escaped their influence? Or just empty space waiting for humanity to fill it with their vision of order? She remembered her daughter back on Earth, now living in a world where humans were slowly becoming gods. Lisa had wanted to give her child a normal life, but normal no longer existed. Not when your species could reshape reality itself. Commander Jake Sullivan worked in the mining stations around Kepler 442b, where the great battle had taken place. The debris had been cleared away, but everyone who worked there knew they were. Standing on a graveyard, 3,000 hegemony ships had died in these coordinates, victims of their own pride and ignorance. Sullivan to Aurora, he said into his communicator. Safe travels, Captain Park. Bring back something good from the darkness. Lisa's voice crackled back across the vast distance. We'll do our best, Jake. Keep the home fires burning. But there was no home anymore. Not really. There was only the garden and the gardeners who had returned to tend it. On Nexus Prime, Elder Shender made his final entry in the Kethmori archives. His crystal pod glowed softly as he spoke into the ancient recording systems. Today marks the end of our stewardship and the beginning of a new age. The children have come home, just as we always feared they would. They wear familiar faces and speak of cooperation, but we know what they truly are. The elder paused, his black eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. We tried to contain them. We tried to teach them limitation. We tried to make them smaller than their heritage. But some forces in the universe cannot be diminished, only delayed. Around him, the empty council chamber echoed with the memory of voices that would never debate again. The architects are awake now, whether they admit it or not. They see the quantum threads that bind all things. They feel the pulse of subspace that connects every star. They remember, in their bones and blood, what it means to be the shapers of reality. Shender's pod began to dim as he prepared for the long sleep that would carry him through the coming age. To whoever finds this record in the cycles to come, know this. We did not fail because we were weak. We failed because we tried to cage. Infinity itself. The humans are not conquerors or explorers. They are gardeners, returning to tend the garden they planted before time had meaning. The recording ended, leaving only silence in the great chamber. Above Nexus Prime, human ships began to arrive, carrying the new administrators of galactic civilization, out in the void between galaxies. Captain Park watched strange lights moving in the darkness beyond her ship's sensors. She wondered what they would find out there and what would find them. The universe is vast, she said quietly to her crew, but it's our universe now, for better or worse. Behind them, the galaxy they had left spun in space like a jewel, beautiful and fragile, and utterly under humanity's control. The age of the elders was over. The age of the architects had begun again, and this time there would be no one left to warn the galaxy about the danger of opposing humanity. They were home.